So Leviticus was written and directed by Adrian Chiarella. I apologize if I mispronounced your name. And it stars Joe Bird, Stacey Clausen, and Mia Wasikowska. And it's about these two teenagers who are part of this deeply religious community who are being stalked, being watched by this horrifying entity that takes the form of the thing they desire most, which is in this case each other. So this is a movie I was kind of interested in for a few reasons. The first main reason was Neon. Neon itself is one of those companies that actually is making like very different movies, kind of like A24. It's like they're making new and unique movies that kind of stand out. They're definitely different than a lot of other movies, and I think they picked this up and turn around to release in the States and such. And also, the premise itself kind of sounded very interesting. It's like, what if this creature kind of took form of something that you were already attracted to? Like, that is actually kind of interesting. So, and I was actually very surprised that this movie was actually playing at a theater near me. So I actually got to see this movie, and the movie itself is very interesting. I think the movie is very well made, very well acted. I don't think it's a flawless movie by any means, but I do think it's a movie that it should be worth watching at some point. So let's start off with the things I do like. First off, I thought the actors did a really good job. Joe Bird in particular, I thought he commanded the entire movie, even though I felt like normally I feel like not his in particular, but like any protagonist that's like stone cold face throughout an entire movie, there's nothing really interesting about that. But I felt like the way he did it was actually kind of interesting because like he's clearly trying to hide a lot of things about him, and also trying to like he clearly wants to say it and do a whole lot, but at the same time he can't. It's actually very interesting kind of seeing his reaction to pretty much everything in this movie. Stacey Clausen also really good in this movie as the other teenager who's kind of dealing with everything in this movie, particularly in some scenes where he's also being attacked. Also, Joe Bird's character, he's the character that we kind of see throughout the entire movie, which I thought was kind of interesting. But I think, again, he commands the entire movie. Mia Wasikowska as one of the boys' mothers, I thought she did a really good job too, particularly kind of dealing with everything that she's been through. And I felt like her character was also kind of interesting. I won't go too into detail because I don't want to spoil this movie by any means. The movie does have some decent scares I thought were really good. There was one in particular that kind of just made me jump out of my seat. Now, I kind of prefer my scares where it's like there's just no warning whatsoever. Like, if there's like, it's quiet for a while, but then all of a sudden something just pops out and is actually scary. That's kind of the scares I prefer rather than something that's like building up to something that may not be scary or just random jump scares for things that aren't even scary. I feel like the movie actually does handle the scares very well. Meanwhile, the atmosphere itself is very unsettling. Like, it just builds up the tension throughout the entire movie. Like, for like the first, I would say about 20 minutes or so, there's not a lot of tension, but like as the movie builds and like as the characters kind of get deeper and deeper into the lore and such with the creature in this movie, it's definitely very fascinating to see, and it definitely makes you feel very uneasy throughout the entire movie. I will say the movie actually is very subtle with, well, maybe not. Some things are very subtle, some things are not. And some of it I feel like may be intentionally not subtle, which, given some of the subject matter of this movie, you can kind of see like what's going to be subtle and what's going to be not subtle. But I think like the acting itself is very subtle, whereas I feel like some things they talk about are not. I do think this movie is very interesting to watch, but I do have a few complaints about it. First was there were so many moments where I was kind of like thinking about other movies. The first one that came up in my mind was It Follows, which, I like that movie, but there are times where it's like, this movie kind of like borrows some things from It Follows. It's not like straight up stealing by any means, but it's just kind of one of those things like, oh, it's kind of noticeable. And I also kind of thought of Smile as well, which I feel like this movie is definitely better than Smile. And also, some things in this movie just feel completely unresolved. When you find out like what's going on, you can actually tell like what's going to happen. And I felt that was kind of disappointing, where you kind of find out like why things are kind of happening to these characters and why they're happening specifically to them. You find out very early like why that happens, but at the same time, they don't really show anything that happens. Like, there's no comeuppance for any of these characters kind of do like really horrible things and such, but that could also be an allegory for people who, were doing really horrible things and they didn't really face any punishment. It's a very interesting movie, and I was thinking about it a lot. I saw this movie yesterday, and I've been thinking about it a lot since I saw it. But I do think that this movie is mainly saved because it is kind of a unique idea. The acting is really good. There are some good scares, and the atmosphere itself is really good. The tension, the music is also really good as well. I just found the movie to have some moments where it's like, I wish there was something that kind of like tied everything together in the sense that like maybe there should have been an explanation for some of these things. But then again, I feel like if they explained it, maybe that wouldn't have been better. Oh well. And I do feel like that it does borrow heavily from a few other movies, but not enough to the point where I'm just like annoyed, where it's like, oh, it's just copy another movie. No, I think this movie is its own thing and it actually works on its own merits. I'll give Leviticus 3 out of 4 stars. See it. So, what has been the best horror movie of 2026 so far? We're about halfway through the year at this point. We had a lot of great horror movies. We have this, Obsessions, Send Help, Backrooms. Comment down below, subscribe to the channel. This is Pat. Stay safe.